So my 2000 model Dodge Ram pickup truck has decided it doesn't want to shift gears anymore. So we're going to try to fix that today. It hasn't necessarily lost any gears, it just doesn't want to change from one to another anymore. So in my box of hopeful goodies, I've got a transmission filter kit with the pan gasket. Now that's not what we're going to hope to fix it with. This is a Pioneer part number 772283. This right here is the valve body pressure switch or solenoid. It controls the amount of pressure going through the valve body, allowing the transmission to kind of it works like a governor to let the transmission shift gears. These have little metal screens in them, just like a variable timing solenoid in a Honda. And these can get covered in metal shavings after a while and cause the shifting to flare and do all kinds of crazy stuff. If you've watched some of my other videos when we're driving the truck, you noticed before that it would kind of rev up a little as it shifted, like a shift flare. We're hoping this right here is our culprit. If not, we're going to be tearing down a transmission for a rebuild. So let's get it in here. Okay, so big girl's up in the air. Got her locked in. And there's our trans pan. Now on this transmission, we don't actually have a drain bolt in the pan. How cool is that? We've got to pop the corner of the pan, let it hang a little bit, and then pour everywhere, all over everything, including the floor, the exhaust manifold, and part of the front drive shaft. So let's go ahead and get that done. All right, so what we've got going on here is I took all the bolts out around this corner. Now you can see it's starting to overfill this side of the pan. So I got my good catch pan here. And we're gonna try to save some of that fluid if we can, because we might have to put it back in there. Sometimes if the clutch bands are all burned up, you're gonna need to put the old fluid back in it because it's got all of the good stuff the transmission likes, all the pieces of clutch particle, all that good stuff. So let me get out of here and catch this thing before it falls. Okay. So while that's dripping, we're doing our front band adjustment, which on the driver's side of the vehicle, straight underneath the door, above my drive shaft, since I'm 4x4, right here, you've got this 19mm lock nut with, I think that's a T40 Torx head in it. Now what you do is you back this lock nut off a few rounds, put your Torx head in here, and you tighten this Torx bolt to 72 inch-pounds. Not foot-pounds, 72 inch-pounds. Once you get it tight and it clicks, you back this nut out. You can put a little paint mark on it or on your socket, whatever you want to do. 2 7/8 turns, and then you torque down your nut here again. I think the nut torques down to 30, and then you're good to go. Now all I've got to do is reconnect my spring, which connects in right there. It goes across this area. I removed it for the sake of getting a socket in here a little bit easier, but it's pretty simple. We're just gonna grab it, fish it back around this way, and it's hard to look in a camera and do this, but I'm gonna hook it right back into that little spot right there. Okay. Now for the rear band, which is this big guy right here, it goes down to a 17mm. You're gonna loosen this nut up 4 or 5 turns and get you a 5/16 12-point socket to fit on this guy. And the same deal, we torqued him to 71 foot-pound or inch-pounds, 71, 72 inch-pounds, and then you back it off 2 turns. Tighten this nut back down. Now she's good and tight again. Now what we're gonna do is take the filter loose and go ahead and change our governor pressure solenoid. Now we did not have any codes in this transmission. I didn't have any lights on either. It just started. We're gonna go ahead and change it though and hope for the best. These are the Torx bits, screws that are in the filter right here. They come down, and they are a T25. So let me get the other one out and then we'll change our pressure solenoid. All right. So I replaced the little governor pressure solenoid, that guy right here. It's got an electrical connector on this side that you pull this tab down to unplug. It's got those 2 Torx bits on each side. Then you've got an 11mm, an 11mm, and another 11mm. And then this whole silver piece right here slides backwards, and then the solenoid just pulls out. The new one should come with O-rings. Make sure all the old ones come out. Push the new solenoid in, slide the plate in from this back side right here near your catalytic converter, and then tighten all the bolts back up. Now we're going to reinstall the transmission filter, making sure we've got the little O-ring out of there. Yep. So let's install the new filter, put the pan back on with a new gasket, and refill the system with fluid, and we'll go test drive it in a second. But let's go ahead and get started. So with our new filter installed and torqued down, I have drained out most of the transmission fluid that was in the pan into our catch pan. What you're looking for is your magnet in here. So this is it. Now the magnet, its sole purpose is to collect the metal deposits that may occur as the transmission wears. Small amounts of metal deposits are okay. It is not out of the ordinary. Now if you look, you see that gray paste? There is some excessive metal deposits in this transmission, which now this is a Dodge, so Dodges like to do this. However, this is an indicator of transmission failure. This could be clutch band material breaking down. It could be other parts of the transmission that were not as well lubricated due to a pressure issue causing this. Either way, it's not the best sign. I've seen them a lot worse. So we're going to put some additive in this transmission when we put it back together to hopefully, now it doesn't restore the damage that is done, but it should help the transmission limp along for a little bit longer until we can find a good new replacement or rebuild this unit. So we're going to go ahead and remove our old transmission pan gasket. Sometimes they're not going to peel off so easy. You're going to have bits and chunks left over where you're going to have to be in it. Now this transmission did have a prior service at 110,000 miles where the filter and fluid was changed and a band adjustment was done then. We are now at the 213,000 mark, so it's a little overdue. I do have a little bit of material left right here, and I'll get a pick and a scraper and make sure we get all of this off. And we might even hit it with a little wire brush nice and gently. As you can see, they've already done this one time before. And then we'll clean out the rest of the metal deposits on this magnet, and then we'll reinstall the pan with the new gasket. I cleaned our pan out, and I used a brakes parts cleaner, which is not good on rubber seals and components of that nature. So I wiped it down very thoroughly, and now it is sitting in the sun. That will dry out any remnants that may be left in there from that brakes parts cleaner. While that's doing that, we opened up our filter kit, and you can see in here, they gave us 2 pan gaskets. Now the reason for this is you have 2 styles of transmission pan that could be on this unit. So I just lay them out side by side. Now the curvature in the corner seems to remain the same. You'll notice on this left side, that's just how I have it laid out. You'll see we have a larger curvature here, while this one is a straight edge. So you're either gonna have a straight edged transmission pan, or you're gonna have a little curve to it right here. Both corners on this side do seem to be the same, and the bolt holes will probably line up, just looking at how they correspond for this whole section until you reach the back. Looking at our transmission with the way it's laid now, you can see that we have that curvature on this corner. So that means that this guy right here is going to be the pan gasket that we go with. On my transmission pan, I have reinstalled the magnet. It's literally just a magnet. Throw it back in the corner where you found it. That's usually a good spot. I have laid the gasket down on it, and I have pushed all of the bolts through it. The holes on the gasket are just a hair smaller than the bolts themselves, so the gasket will actually hold the bolts through the pan. And see, I can't even knock it out. It's not going to go anywhere. Now I can raise the pan back up and start a couple bolts in each corner and slowly keep tightening and work my way around. So let's get it put back on. Back underneath the Dodge, our transmission pan has been reinstalled. checking over all of our linkages and springs again, making sure nothing's popped off or come loose. Now, once you get all these bolts started, you can hand tighten them, and then you can go around in like a cross sequence and then finish it all up. About 150, 155 inch-pounds. You'll feel it getting good and snug, and the gasket will ever so slightly stick away from the side of the pan. That's usually your here go mark, and you're ready to continue. So now we're going to drop the unit or lower the whole thing back to the ground, fill her full of fluid, and we'll drive it. Okay, so what I've went ahead and done with the truck on the ground is I went ahead and pre-filled it with about 3 quarts of ATF. And the reasoning behind this is, so as you saw, these transmission pans do not have a drain plug, so it's easy to overfill and then harder to unfill it because that pan's got to drop. So you can look in here and see about how much fluid actually came out. We've put about 3 quarts in it now. We'll start it up, cycle it through the gears, and then check our fluid level again. Okay. So I cycled it through the gears, park, reverse, neutral, drive, 2-1, 2-1, all that good stuff, all the way back to park a few times. Checked our fluid level, we were still low. I checked it with the engine running this time. I went ahead and added the rest of that jug to the transmission. I'm gonna cycle it through the gears again, and we'll check our fluid level. All right, and now with our fluid filled up again, we'll test drive it. All right, we did a 1 to 2 shift. We did a 2 to 3 shift. There's our 3 to 4. And overdrive. One to 2. Two to 3. And 3 to 4. And our torque converter lockup for our overdrive. So I think this unit's going to be okay. Let's go back to the shop, check our fluid one more time, and go ahead and get some additive in it because I haven't done that yet. Okay, so we checked the fluid level one more time. It was good and full. I did have to top it off just a hair, and we went ahead and added some additive to the transmission. You can use whatever you like. I think all of it's pretty much like a snake oil kind of thing. One of my favorites is the shutter stop friction modifier. That stuff seems to actually kind of work for snake oil. This transmission's so worn, you know, I'm just hoping to get a few more years out of it if possible. And I'm also going to make a new note card under the hood now that it has had another transmission service and some parts replaced at 213,000. So I hope you guys found this somewhat informative or at least enjoyable. Appreciate you guys watching. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if it fixes your Dodge Ram. Like I said, this truck, in case I didn't say at the beginning of the video, was hanging up in first gear, wouldn't come out of first. You could get it to red line and sometimes go to second, and then it would just get stuck in second, wouldn't shift anymore. And before that started happening, the truck, when it would go to shift, used to rev up and then drop back down into the next gear. And if you were towing something, it was even worse. So down gearing, going up a hill or something, it would over rev and miss the gear and then just free rev. Doesn't seem to do that anymore either. So hopefully, if some of you guys out there have a second generation Dodge Ram with the later fully electronic transmission, maybe this will help you guys out too. Thanks for watching. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think. We'll see you in the next one.